I'd like to talk to you here for a few minutes before we go up, just to orient you on what the canyon is about. Wants to use it. Here was the second week of January, 1963. It was either on Monday or Tuesday, because on Wednesday he started the convention in Phoenix. He dropped Joseph off to school that morning, and he and Sister Branham came up here in his station wagon, and he parked his car right over there. And he got out and went in and used that restroom. And then Sister Branham says that he went up that trail right over there by those rocks. You want to turn around and take a picture of it, brother, I'll let you do that. And he went up that trail, and when the CCC purchased this,
back to the right.
And they built this road in here, they started the road there. You can see where it goes back that way. What they were doing, the engineers, was to construct that road, and they were going to make a curve there and come back, and you can see up there where they've already done some blasting. They'd already started the blasting of Mount Lemmon. But this is where they stopped. The construction was finished in 1937. So when Brother Branham walked around that place, when he came to the end of where they had done some grading and left it off, there was a game trail that comes down from these bluffs up here, and he went up that game trail. Now, Brother Branham was quite a hiker. I mean, he was been in the bush and the woods and the mountains, and the brothers say that even at his age, at 55 and 56, he could do what a young man could do as far as hunting in the wilderness. And when Brother Branham went up that side of the mountain, up that game trail, it took him about 20 minutes from right here. Now, he did not know that this trail over here went up the mountain and switchbacks like this, and then goes around and comes through this draw here, and goes around the edge up there, and goes around through that same place. And it goes all the way back out to the gate. That trail there does. You can look back yonder sometimes when the sun is riding, you can see it alongside of that mountain underneath that bluff there. Now, for those of you that have listened to Brother Branham's tapes, you hear him talk about some massive bluffs that's bigger than Life Tabernacle. Well, those are those bluffs right up there that he's talking about. And he talked about meeting an Indian boy that lived up there with a machete. And he asked that Indian boy if he had ever been up on top of those. And the boy told him that he had not. Now, Brother Branham went around here, and when he climbed up to the top of that game trail, he says he came up behind some jagged rocks. And there was a game trail going up on top of those rocks. And when he went up there, that's where he was seeking the Lord, wanting to know what that vision of that explosion meant. And he raised up his hands, and that sword struck his hand. Now, we call that place Sword Mountain. And that's the reason that we're going to go around there first today, because that's the first place that Brother Branham ever had any kind of an experience. Now, the way that I located that place was that in September of 1965, Brother Branham was up here, and I was in town that day, and George Smith and I were going back to Texas, and when we went by to tell Brother Branham goodbye, Brother Branham told us about the white dove appearing to him that day. Now, that was the first time I ever heard of any incident concerning the word eagle written on the rock, the little furry animal jumping at Brother Branham, and the white dove appearing to him. Now, later, after Brother Branham had left the scene, we wondered where these places were. We knew there was a place where the sword appeared in his hand, the white dove appeared, the little furry animal leaped at him, and the word eagle was written on the rock. But none of us had any idea where they were located. But Brother Branham brought a camera up here, and he took a set of pictures. And I saw those photographs, and I saw the order and the sequence in which they were in. And Brother Branham took some pictures of these bluffs. He did not stand down here to take them. So, from memory, I realized that Brother Branham did not take them from here. So the first time I came up here, March 13th, 1965, I said, Brother Branham took pictures of those bluffs because they were in his photographs, but he didn't take them from here. He took them from over there somewhere. So that's what motivated me to go up that trail the first time. And when I got up there, where there's a fork in the trail, I remembered that Brother Branham said on wings of a snow white dove that when he was going up there the day after the white dove appeared, instead of going back around where the sword appeared in his hand, he felt attracted to go to the west. So that's the reason that I went to the west, because I was looking for the place where the word eagle was written on the rock. Then when I got around the trail, I realized that Brother Branham had stood up there, and you can see it up there. There's a place where the white quartz comes out on the trail. And in 1967, they redid this trail, and they blasted every rock from here up to Mount Lemon that was in the way of the trail, and widened it from about this wide to about 4 or 5 feet wide, until they got to the place to where the word eagle was written on the rock. And if they had done there what they did to the other, they would have demolished and destroyed that rock. But I will show you today that they bypassed that place, and they changed the trail entirely and went over and behind the rock. And that rock today is not even on the trail. It's off down the hill from the trail, which people use now, which I believe God did for our benefit. These things do not make believers out of us, but it shows that there is a certain amount of preservation that's left for us. Now, so Brother Branham, the day that he went up here, he had the sword that appeared in his hand. But I noticed there was something strange about that roll of film that he'd taken, and that is that he had taken pictures of those jagged rocks. If you turn around, you can see one set of them sticking up right over the crest of that hill right there. But if you walk over to your right, there'll be 3 sets of those. There's 1, 2, 3. And Brother Branham took pictures of those right up here where that white quartz jumps out in the trail. He stood there, and instead of aiming his camera at those big bluffs or those things down there, he took shots of those 3 jagged peaks. Now then, in his photograph, you cannot tell that the mountain comes down and then these peaks sit off out here. But when you get there, there's a valley between the two, and that's where the game trail goes up and then comes up on top of the jagged rocks. And therefore, that's how I located the place where the sword appeared in Brother Branham's hand, because it meant something to him that he stood up here and took 3 shots of it from across the valley of those particular places of the jagged peaks. Therefore, I said one day in a sermon, I can take you to the place, I can show you where it happened, where the sword appeared in the hand of the prophet. And a brother in my church challenged me. He says, all right, do it. I said, brother, don't you believe me? He said, well, you said you could, now do it. And he somewhat provoked me. Brother Linhart. And that night at 11 o'clock he called and said, are you going to take me in the morning? And I said, well, yes, I guess so. Just meet me at 5 o'clock. So they met me at 5 o'clock at the gate, and it was he and another brother, and I just decided, well, I'll just teach them a lesson. I'm younger than they are, so I'll just run up the side of that mountain and lead them out. And they brought their coats. And I went without a coat or a sweater, either one. It was early in the morning, and it's always cool up here that time of day. And so I just went right up this trail right around it as hard as I could go, and got over there. And by the time I got there, it was just a little bit after 9 o'clock, and he was still cold. And I looked around, and Brother Linhart had taken out a book, I think, What is the Attraction on the Mountain? And he began to read something like, and the sword appeared in my hand and was glistening in the sun. And then I realized there wasn't any sun where I was standing. And so I apologized. I said, brother, I told you I could show you the place, but this can't be the place because there's no sun here. I said, look over there at that mountain. I said, at 11 o'clock in the morning, the shade is still high outside there because these big bluffs over here blocks the sunlight. And there's no way you can get sun over here. And I said, brothers, I'm sorry. So I was about remorseful and unhappy that I had not found the place, and I'd made that statement. I said, I'll have to apologize to the people. So we knelt down to pray, and I really wanted to pray and get out of there, and I was cold. And Brother Linhart and the other brother, they were praying with me, and suddenly I began to feel warm, and I'll be honest with you, I thought I was having some kind of a Pentecostal experience. And I opened my eyes, and the sun was coming through an opening that's up here, and at 5 minutes to the hour, every year in the second week of January, the sun comes right through that opening and strikes only one small place on the top of those rocks. And that's the only place Brother Branham could have been standing with that sword would glisten in the sun. And so that's the reason that I can say today, I can take you to the place. I can show you where it happened. Merritt there has taken films with the clock sitting there. Brothers from South Africa have come over and taken timed exposures with a movie film, taking them every 15 seconds or something like that. And they've got photographs of the sun coming right up and striking right in the lens of the camera. And that's the only place that Brother Branham could have been that morning, standing with a sword glistening in his hand, with a sword glistening in the sun. Now, he came back in September of 65, and when he went up the trail from over there, he could see this trail here with these switchbacks. So he started going this way from then on when he came. And when he came around here and he got to those big rocks right up there, you can see one it looks like a half moon. It's flat on one side. And right up that valley there. Now, that man today said there was an earthquake here in 1887 and shook all these rocks down. But let me tell you what Brother Branham told me about those boulders there. First time he ever told me about them, he said, Brother Green, said they're big as this house. And he said, you know, he said, I weep every time I get there. He said, you know the day they got in place? I said, no. He said, when they crucified Jesus Christ, when the earth did quake and the rocks did rip, he said those boulders fell off of that bluff and fell into that place where they are in Sabino Canyon as a witness to us that the scriptures are true. And it was at that place where Brother Branham came around, and the little furry animal that he had seen by vision when he was in Mayo's clinic had leaped out of that stump and had gone down his throat and had made that sickness in his stomach every 7 years. And Brother Branham felt that God had delivered him when he came up here, because he saw a little furry animal 6 inches long that had leaped off of a rock up there and had speared itself on a cacti. And I'll try to show you the kind of cacti today that it speared itself on. The second day when he went back up there, he was going around to where the sword appeared in his hand and where the little furry animal was. But when he crossed this draw right here on the trail, you go around it like that, and you can see with his place, there was a white dove there. And Brother Branham felt that was the fulfillment of the dream that his mother had when he was 14 years old, and she dreamed the doves had come in the form of an S, and he always wondered where the seventh one was. And that's what motivated Brother Branham to preach on the wings of a snow white dove. Then the next day that he came back up here in September, he came September 20, 21, and 22, 3 days in a row. That's when he came to the fork in the trail, and he felt attracted to go back to the west, and he went all the way around. He went off the other side and got a drink of water because he took pictures of them. And it was from those photographs that when I came up here, I can show you just step by step how the Lord led me. And I saw this, and I went up this trail. I got up to the fork, and I went that way. I got around to where the white quartz is. I saw those bluffs. He walked out on into this peak out here and took another one. And I followed it step by step, finding the places where Brother Branham stood to take his pictures. And there was a photograph he took around here of what looked like an eagle sitting there with his wings pulled back like this, and it sticks off the side of the mountain. And I knew that I would find that formation if I had to get a helicopter and find it from the air. But when I found that particular formation, then I knew that I was going in the same direction that Brother Branham had gone. There's a place up there where there's a rock up on the side of a bluff, and the bottom looks like it fell off of it. And when I found that and stood underneath it, I knew I was going in the same direction. But there was one of the photographs Brother Branham took in the picture where there was some limbs of a tree up in the corner. And as I was looking for that day with Brother Harold McClintock, Brother Johnson, you spent him last night, he was my witness of this the day that I found it. It was late in the afternoon. And we come up on a rock up here, and it looked like there was some writing on the rock. And I told Harold, I said, Harold, do you think that could be the word eagle written there? I said, but, you know, Brother Branham says that rock weighed about 70 tons. And all I'd seen was the photograph that had the word eagle written in white quartz. And before that, we'd always thought that it was white eagle written in quartz. But Brother Branham sometimes used his adverbs, like he said, I've heard Brother Green many times speak. Brother Branham said there, written in the rock, white eagle quartz. But it was eagle written in white quartz. is the way that the photograph that he had, that Brother Billy Paul had the roll of films with. So Brother McClintock was standing there drawing on the rock, on the flyleaf of his little testament. What it was, I said, I'm going to go around the trail and see if I can find a tree somewhere on this trail. And he's about 50 yards behind me. When I come upon a place that I look and I see where if you take a picture like this, there would be the limbs of a tree in the edge of the picture of that eagle with its standing there with its wings pulled back. And as I turn, right in front of me is a massive pyramid-shaped rock that had been blasted open in 1937, and the other half of it lies down underneath the bank, which you'll see today. In the meantime, we've measured it, and that portion of the rock at one time stood against the other one, and where they blasted it away, that's the narrow ledge that you walk on. And right in the middle of that, when I turned to call him to say, Brother McClintock, I think here is the place where Brother Branham took that picture. And when I looked there, right in front of my eyes, was the word eagle in white quartz. I don't mind telling you how it made me feel. I just dropped to my knees. I couldn't say anymore. And when my voice disappeared, Brother McClintock came down the trail to see what had happened to me. He thought maybe I was falling off the edge or something. And here I was there, and right in front of me was the word eagle written in white quartz. Now, Brother Branham had gone all the way over to the other side, had got a drink of water, and come back there about 11 o'clock in the morning. And because of the shape of this rock, it was shady there. And he had his little rifle, and he had his shirt off, and he leaned up against that rock to take the coolness from that rock. And that's when the Spirit spoke to him and said, what are you leaning against? And when he pushed back, written right there across where his chest was the word eagle written in white quartz. And so that's how we found Eagle Rock. Then the next service, we told the people of the church about it. First time we came up here, we brought over 400 people. The next time that I came back, it looked like somebody had got across the valley over there and had shot that rock with a high-fired rifle. People had come up here and had taken hammers and chisels and had chipped pieces off of it. And I want you to know that I have never seen a piece of that rock in anybody's possession or house. They won't show it to me because they have literally defaced that rock. And I learned a lesson from it. That when you start thinking you want to share things with people, there's some people who will abuse anything that you do. Then it was not until about a year later that we began to investigate, and we found out that we could see where the white dove appeared, and found where the little furry animal went on around the trail, and found where the sword appeared, and everything fit together. And we shared these things, and every year we brought people like yourself. One year we brought over 700 people up here. The first year we had a convention. We had the last night of the convention up here. At that time, they didn't lock the gate, but we parked our cars down there, and we had vans that brought all the drivers and everything up. We went up here, and we had a service up here where the little dove appeared. No public address system or anything. There's over 700 of us. We stayed there till almost midnight. It was a beautiful service that night. If Brother Branham was alive, he'd enjoy having a prayer line there. It's a beautiful place to be. And but we're not allowed to do that anymore. We have to come in here now the way we came today. So I want to hike you up the trail where the dove appeared. Then we'll go around where the sword appeared. Then we'll come back, and then those of you that feel that you can make it, it's another 20-minute walk around where the rock is, that the word eagle is written on. Now from here to where the When you get up in Sabino Canyon, you see these mountains rising up like this. You've ever heard him talk on the Snow White Dove? You hear him talk about these big bluffs up here, 10 times bigger than Light Tabernacle. This back in here is Mount Lemon. The Catalinas is back in the background. This is the canyon that goes between. It's called Sabino Canyon. He drove his car up here and parked it up here in the parking lot that's over behind you. He climbed up a game trail that morning, come up around behind us, and said he walked up in some jagged peaks. And the next picture I show you, you're going to be standing right there looking right up into these peaks. He said when he climbed up on top of those jagged peaks, the next picture,
He walked out on the end of them out here, and you couldn't get at him from the front. But he was standing there, and he was wondering if that vision he'd seen with those 7 angels and that explosion had meant his death. He said he raised up his hand there, and a sword struck his hand. And it was glistening in the sun. Several times he personally described it to me. About this long, double-edged, gold handle, pearl over this, silver blade. He was afraid of it. He said, oh, that voice spoke and said, this is the king's sword, the sword of the king. He said, oh, the sword of a king like your night vision. He said, no, not a king, the king. So after we lived there a while, because of photographs that he took from over on the other side, showing this particular set of rocks right in the center of his camera, is the reason I decided this was the place that he was standing when the sword appeared in his hand. One Sunday I was preaching to my congregation. I said, I can show you the place. I can take you to it. And after service, a couple of people challenged me and said, do it. I said, you guys, you doubt me. That's right, you said you could do it. So they got me sort of perturbed. So the next morning at about 6 o'clock, they got me out of bed and they made me hike up in Sabino. And they were older than I was, and they wore coats, and I said, I'll just run their legs off today. I was in my 30s then. And I went dashing up that game trail, coming out and run up in there, and I sat down up there, and I noticed that the sun was still, this was all the shadow. And over there, only sun was over on that side of the canyon. And one of the brothers took out a book, Why Christ Speak, and What is the Attraction on the Mountain. He started reading out there. This brother had said something about, there I stood with that sword in my hand, glistening in the sun. And I stood up and I said, brother, I'm sorry. I apologize to you, brothers. I thought this was the place. But I said, if he said that sword was glistening in the sun, I said, there won't be any sun here for about an hour. I said, them high bluffs up there above this will shadow this place. And I said, look here how high the sun still is over there. And I said, it'll be almost noon before there's any sun on this mountain. And I said, brothers, I've got to repent to you, brothers, and repent to my church. I said, I thought this was a place because he described the jagged rocks and the game trail and the tree, and I saw the photographs he took, and these rocks from the other side of the canyon was right in the middle of his picture. And I figured he's standing there aiming his camera at it, but I said, this can't be the place. And I really felt bad, and I said, well, let's just have a word of prayer. And we started praying, and I was there, and all of a sudden I began to feel warm. It was cold, and they had on coats, but I didn't. And I'll be honest with you, Brother Henry, I thought I was having some kind of a Pentecostal sensation. And I opened my eyes, and Johnny, the next picture, I looked, and the sun was coming right through there, striking right where I was sitting. I said, brothers, this is the only place on this entire mountain that it could have happened. And I challenge you to come there the second week of January and go stand there and let the sun look right through that opening right there. And it will strike nowhere else on that side of the mountain until almost 11 o'clock. That had to be the place. Not anybody argues with me about it when we show it now. But I had to be provoked before I'd even go and get the proof. I tell you, I just appreciate the way God has directed us in these things. If you come sometime and let me take you to Sabino Canyon in December when we always go during the convention, I'll show you step by step. The Lord showed us that rock and this place and that place, and we felt led to stand here, and we saw that, and we stood right there where the word eagle was written on the rock, and the sword appeared in his hand. Next one, John. When you look off down the front of that place where the sword appeared, he said, way up high where the eagles fly. And see, there goes the road, and there's no way you can get up from the front. You've got to go around behind it and come up the game trail. But if you stand here and you look across the mountain the way he did that first day, next one, John, you'll see this switchback trail going up the mountain like this. And you hear him on Snow White Dove. He said that day when he went up there, instead of coming around where the sword appeared and where the dove appeared, he felt attracted back to the west. And he went around that way. And so when I got up the switchback the first time and got over here to the fork in the trail, instead of going that way, I went back to the west. And I went around looking for photographs, for formations, which he had photographed himself. The next one, Johnny. And there was a picture of this right here. And I had told everybody, I'll find that in those mountains if I have to fly over the helicopter. But I didn't. The first time I went there, March the 13th, 1966, I rounded a curve, and there was that, what looked like an eagle. And if you look at it, this is wings are pulled back, and that's his head and his beak. It looks like he's sitting like this, looking right down on the trail. The next one I'll show it to you a little later. He had taken a picture of that. Right underneath it were the limbs of a tree in the corner. So all I had to do was walk the trail until I found a place where there were limbs in the corner of the picture, looking up at that. And when I did, I was walking down the trail, Johnny, and I came upon this rock. And I was standing here, and I was looking up at that eagle, and right there was the word eagle written on the rock. I was speechless. He said, they're written in quartz white eagle. I was looking for the word white eagle. But he often used his adjectives that way. He said, I've heard Brother Green many times speak. But there written in white quartz was the word eagle. And we had a photograph of it. Walk me right up to it now, Johnny. I took his son, Brother Billy Paul. Can you see the word right here? Give me the next one, Johnny. There's your word eagle. Written in white quartz, exactly the way that it was on his photograph. They redid that trail, 1972. They blasted every rock on that trail until they got to that one. And this one, they changed the trail. They went over behind it and made the trail up higher. And today, nobody walks by this except us believers. God even preserved it as a testimony. Listen, the rocks are going to cry out against us. Johnny, walk me backwards too. And there was the picture of this right here. And I had told everybody, I'll find that in those mountains if I have to fly over the helicopter. But I didn't. The first time I went there, March the 13th, 1966, I rounded a curve, and there was that, what looked like an eagle. And if you look at it, this is wings are pulled back, and that's his head and his beak. It looks like he's sitting like this, looking right down on the trail. The next one I'll show it to you a little. A curve, and there was that, what looked like an eagle. And if you look at it, this is wings are pulled back, and that's his head and his beak. It looks like he's sitting like this, looking